Hello and welcome to the Gen G Talk Show, where G stands for guts. These are the people on the show who had the guts to follow their gut. Today, on the second episode of the Gen G Talk Show, I am very pleased to have Shubha with me. Shubha is a humanitarian, she is a blogger, she herself is a suicide survivor, a mother of two, working in a reputed IT company. She is taking her crusade for mental health and also for suicide prevention, juggling so many things at a time. And also, she has gone through really some dark days to have come to this with her perseverance and determination. Today on the show, we will talk about her challenges during her teens.
A lot of tough times as a teenager, and as a teenager you know how lovely you want to see the world, right? But that was not the world which I saw.
We will talk about the mother's guilt. Mhm.
But rather than worrying about the limited time and killing myself with my mother's guilt of
Mhm.
not having the time to take out cycling with my kids, not having the time to play chess with my daughter,
Mhm.
instead of that, I try to just enjoy the moment that I have.
Mhm. We will talk about, is there any thought in the mind of women who are homemakers, which we generally don't talk?
And when I talked to them on one, I could see the pain in their hearts. Yeah. And
Mhm.
to all such women, what I would say is support is not just the financial support that you will always have to look at. It's okay that you are not able to financially support, but then how do you plan your family? How do you also plan the budget for your family to do a savings? That itself is a kind of a financial support. You know,
We will talk about why she went into the crusade for mental health.
I know the pain of being there in darkness, where I was screaming for help, I could say, but internally.
We will also touch upon her story when she really took this extreme step.
And I wanted to tell her, Amma, I'm alive. I don't want to see you crying, you know. But I still remember there were no words that were coming out of me. Then I just touched my mom. I just showed my hands. And then she knew I was alive.
And what does she tell to the university students or other places when she goes and talks about suicide prevention?
My mother just told me one thing after several months of all this happening. She just said that if there is one wish that we want, we just want to see you alive until we are alive. Taking your own life, never do this. It is okay, ask for help.
So, without further delay, let us welcome Shubha. Shubha, welcome. Good morning on a weekend. Thank you so much for joining our show. It is always lovely to talk to you, whether over a phone or face to face. So, how are you doing, Shubha? Sunday morning.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev. Great morning. Sunday morning, as always, starts with the house chores. And then today is a very different day, especially, talking to you on several topics. I'm also looking eagerly for our conversation. Thanks for having me in.
My pleasure, Shubha. So, Shubha, as I already told in the introduction, so you are a humanitarian, mainly working on the mental health. You are a blogger, you are a mother, and you are also working in the enterprise IT for the most desirable car in the world. So, we will, through our talk, we will discuss how you juggle all this together and what are your main reason to going into this, and what is your message to the upcoming people, especially ladies, and how they can also juggle the same. Okay. Okay.
Definitely.
So sure. So first, let us come to the very interesting topic of the mental health. I will not be ashamed to say that maybe 10 years back, I myself also looked at it as some aberration, right? And only through later, through some such sessions with others, I came to know that this is also something which needs to be treated and to be recognized. So maybe first we can start with Shubha. Your, because you have worked in this field for some time. What is your take on what people know about this, and what should we do to help others who are in this frame of mind?
Yeah, that's a very important question and the need of the hour today, Sanjeev, looking at the kind of depression rates spiking up, day by day. In fact, I would like to kind of rewind my life a little bit. The reason why I even came into this, I was a teenager back then, due to a severe neurological disorder, I was going through really bad illness. And at some point in time, I had aversion towards myself. It was a lot of treatment. It was a lot of, tough times as a teenager. And as a teenager, you know how lovely you want to see the world, right? But that was not the world which I saw. So that's when, I started hating myself, I would say. And I went deep into a kind of, it felt like I was inside a cave. And today, the reason why I do this volunteering on mental health is I know the pain of being there in darkness, where I was screaming for help, I could say, but internally. I was not loudly saying it. I was just screaming for help, but then that's when I saw light at the end of the tunnel. That's what made me to volunteer on mental health today. In fact, a lot of people say when we talk about depression, or mental health, is it something about crazy thinking? No, not really. Is it something to do about, say, okay, there's everything in life, but why is a person sad? A lot of times we ourselves get into a feeling, okay, no matter what, this person is always a cribbing person. But honestly, depression is not something that you could explain in words. It could be complete blankness. It could be, hating yourself. It could be that you are laughing too much loud but then internally you are struggling. It could also be that you are always trying to get into a kind of a cave all by yourself where you just hate people. So it's a several of these that a person internally goes through, and there's no specific reason why. In fact, if you ask a lot of mental health professionals would also relate it scientifically. This is to do with a lot of hormones. This is to do with a lot of chemical reactions and so on. So it really needs an awareness for all of us as individuals to tell everybody that as is the ailment to the body, so is the ailment to the brain, yeah, or the mental health. So we will have to really look at this as anything to do with, say, any bruises on your body. Just if you fall down, would you not get treated? If you just damage your hands or legs, would you not get treated? This is as same as any physical illness, just that you cannot visibly see it, you cannot really look at it, but then this is to do with this kind of an awareness that we have to spread around.
Okay, and if I may, if you allow me to tell that actually Shubha herself is a suicide survivor, and that's what she told in her words that she was really into this dark phase and she has seen everything, and that's why she has this crusade now to help people who are into this zone. Shubha, we will come to that, especially when you talked about people who are always scribbling, maybe as the one part, and what we as the people around can do to find out, yes, this person is in that state, or how to help. Maybe I will come to that a bit later in the talk,
Mhm,
because especially in the workplace, we are all together on how to spot these guys and girls and how to support them. Okay, so
mhm.
thank you so much for that. Um, the family support, I believe, is something that should be very crucial during this juncture, I believe, especially the people who are
Mhm.
really around. So because I talk about family, maybe you can also tell who are in your family and others, and then maybe we can go to how this family support helps a person in this situation.
Yeah, this is very important, I would say. In terms of depression, the first thing that comes to a person's mind is, can I really ask for help even within the family? Or am I ashamed to ask for help? You know, and that is where you would see subtle differences in the person already. And if you are able to read this and already, kind of support them or pat them on their back, saying that, hey, I'm there to support you. Because let me go back, 20 years back, again, when I was a teenager going through all of this, right? My brother, I'm proud to say that he's my second mother. He's 8 years older than me. He's a doctor by profession. And I still remember I was going through a lot of treatment, and almost every day there would be IV fluids, injected. And some days I would be hospitalized. I had only less than 40 to 50% of attendance in my 12th standard and so on. And one day I was just, standing in the kitchen and doing some kitchen work just to forget all of this. And my brother was just walking behind. And then I just called Anna. And then I went to him. I really don't know what was going into my mind or something like this. I just hugged him and asked, Anna, will I die? This was exactly what I asked him, and it still remains fresh in my mind. My brother had tears all over his, it was just rolling down, and he just touched my head and he said, Papa, it's okay. Everything will be all right. And I can't tell you the number of hospital visits I've made with my brother when I was going through a real physical illness. And this physical illness actually brought in a lot of mental illness to me because I was always in fear. I was in constant fear, because until 10th, I was a bright student. I was a district rank holder. So all of a sudden, when this started, I had a lot of insecurity. Will I not be able to meet the career path what I need? Will I not to be able to get into a kind of a top engineering institute what I wanted? In fact, back then I was even thinking that I should try medicine like my brother. So all of this anxiety actually added in more and more. So anytime the physical illness, I had to undergo 5 years of treatment for my neurological disorder. And there was a lot of things that was happening around me. I was losing some hair. I was kind of developing a lot of acne, and then I was also growing a lot of facial hair, and I was also getting obese. And I would just hate myself when I look into it in the mirror. How a teenager at this age would feel, right? And in college, when I just entered into college, I had a blackout day when, due to my neurological disorder, on one specific day in a physics lab, I just kind of completely, went unconscious. And the time when I woke up, it was in the hospital. So I felt very embarrassed. Of course, there were some students who were helping me, and on the other side, there were some students who made fun of me. But all of this started leading to a lot of mental illness. So I was getting into this cave, and that's when I, hugged my brother and said, will I die? Will I not have a future? He could understand what I was saying. And my parents, they were the most lovable, they're the most adorable parents, I would say. They did not hesitate to take me to a psychiatrist back then. This was 20 years back in a country like India. I belong to a South Indian state, and I was taken to a psychiatrist in Madurai, where basically it's a small town, if you know this town. And 20 years back, I would say this was a revolution in mental health, what my parents did. And that was the first time I started looking at life differently. In fact, in the first few sessions, with the psychiatrist, I was getting more and more adamant not to speak up. Really, I was like, what am I doing here? In fact, I had worse days where I fought with my parents. Do you think I am, a lunatic? Do you brand me that way? Are you, this is the reason that you're taking me there? I had been on my extremes where I had literally, fought with my parents, with my brother, not understanding the fact that they were only trying to help me. But every time they were very calm and quiet, and they handled me, in a way that they made me understand. Slowly, when I started opening up to the psychiatrist, you know, for the first time, she spoke about how well I write. She gave me a topic. She asked me what's my hobby. I used to write. And, when I wrote, she said, how do you have the choice of words the way I put up? And that was the first time I felt good about myself. She made me to sing a song. She made me to also, give a talk. She also started to engage me in several other things that I was capable of. And that's when I started looking at life differently. And I had one specific day, I just had a thought in my mind. Okay, even if my physical illness takes me to a situation, that I would die the very next day, I should have a smile in my face. This was exactly what came to my mind. And then I started doing a lot of self improvement on myself. In fact, it was a roller coaster ride, because for 10 days I would be on my top, I would feel good, and I would start doing good things. The next 10 days I would again go back to my cave. But then my family did not leave me at any point in time. They always supported me, they always brought back me, they helped me with that. And all of this was done without talking about mental health. or what I was going through. They just in a subtle way supported me. They did not ask me. In fact, when it looks from outside, you have everything. You are going to an education institute. You are getting a treatment for your physical illness, which is going to be all right in 5 years.
Mhm.
You are having a wonderful family. You have a good siblings and all of this. Then why do you have to feel sad? My parents could have been very angry with me, right?
Mhm.
But this was never thrown upon me. It was a constant effort put for years. In fact, for almost a decade, until I had to come out of this cave. So this support is needed, at times when we have people suffering with mental illness. It needs a kind of assurance. It just needs a virtual hug. It just needs a pat on their back to say, yeah, going to be another day. And what is important is to acknowledge this is completely okay and not to be okay, and then come back. That kind of a support is what we will have to give.
Very emotional and very rightly said, Suha, that it's okay not to be okay. I think that's something really really very powerful. Also, one of course, the family support and the parents, as you told, is the way they handled you 20 years back. Probably that's really really great that they did. And the second thing that I picked up also was to tell your kids what they are good at, rather than always pointing what they're not good at. I think that's also a very very wonderful message. I mean, I will also take to my kids for sure. Thank you.
Sanjeev, while we also spoke about, the support system, say
Mhm.
for a typical teenager, who's going through depression from parents and siblings, the other side, coming to the industry side of it,
Mhm.
a lot of times, say working women also come back and tell me that, yeah, we go through depression. It could be in different phases. Say women returning from maternity, running into a kind of a postpartum depression, just as an example,
Mhm.
or at times getting overwhelmed with a lot of work, and then also at home and juggling things between home and work. So while looking at that, the support system also, from the spouse is also equally important.
Okay.
So when we say the support system, a lot of times the common things that comes up is women tend to be emotional and they expect a kind of an empathetic, dialogue or a discussion, not
Mhm.
necessarily a solution oriented approach.
Mhm.
Whereas to a man, the way it looks like is when a woman approaches with a problem, he wants to give a solution.
Solution. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because I think that's the way our brain is also wired in that way. So a lot of times, during the initial phase of my marriage, I've gone through the same, and I
Mhm.
used to ask myself a question: okay, why doesn't my husband understand me? I don't get the right support system from my spouse.
Mhm.
I get really angry and things like that.
Mhm.
Then slowly it took us a while, both of us, to understand each other. And what I then understood was the support system that he is offering, you know,
Mhm.
is to acknowledge that, yes, I'm going through something which is, significant in terms of, say, a kind of a mental health issue. And
Mhm.
probably he could be a person who does not want to speak about it, in an expressive way like I do, but
Mhm.
rather, he gives me the time and space for me to really evolve and come out of it. Then
Mhm.
I understand, okay, this is the kind of support system that he's offering. In fact, he doesn't look at that as a taboo topic or something like, hey, my wife is undergoing this kind of a, situation, but
Mhm.
rather he acknowledges it in a nice way, and then, gives me the enough time and space for me to really recover and come back. Because we always have this up and down, up and down, up and down, it's basically not getting ended at once. Likewise, there's also the other side of it where, say, men have approached, wherein they say that they are a little bit hesitant to even talk to their wives about what they are going through,
Mhm.
because especially in the societal pressure, where we are in, for example, men are always looked at as a strong personality. So a lot
Mhm.
of men have this question: what if I talk about my depression to my wife? Will I be looked at as a weak person?
Correct.
you know and that is
Mhm.
exactly where the woman has to proactively step in and also say, hey, it is okay, it is absolutely normal to have a downtime. you know yes, I do acknowledge it, and then I'm there to support you, as simple as that. And luckily, I'm quite happy that my husband has always understood me during these kind of phases. In fact, he did acknowledge that the mental health issue that I've been going through, say in my teenage and later, when it was also passed on, say during my maternity and things like that. He did understand it. Just that probably we are two different personalities, and the way we acknowledge could be slightly different. Maybe I could acknowledge in a very vocal way when he is undergoing some kind of worrisome period,
Mhm.
wherein the way he acknowledges what I am undergoing could be slightly different. But it's an art to really look at that support system. No, so this acknowledgement is must. Acceptance of the situation, and also being mindful of the situation. Okay, if this needs medical intervention, it is absolutely okay. This openness is what has to blossom between the relationship at home as well.
Very nicely said, Subha. I think the spouse is always the best support system, and if they have a very good understanding between them, it's heaven. And as you told, the way we react and women react are slightly different. I completely resonate with you when you say that when my wife comes to me, the first thing for me is to give a solution rather than listen to. So I completely
Yeah.
resonate to that. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
And actually, it's a beautiful thing what nature has given us. And if we are able to understand these differences,
mm,
you know, there's no room for conflict. And one thing which I always tell to the people who I'm talking about is, do not expect the same kind of personality in the person you are talking to or in the relationship that you are actually looking to work together. Shuba is not married to another Shuba. Shuba doesn't work with another Shuba. you know I think if we all understand, yeah, we are all very different, and
mm,
then probably the way of expressing and acknowledging these kind of topics
mm.
is also different, then we would get feel better. So I would also say that apart from all the support system that is there, be it the family or at work and all of it, we should also ensure that you support yourself, because nothing works than self-help.
Right.
Really working with determination, with a never give up attitude, especially on this topic, when it's always an up and down cycle, to start looking at the beautiful things in life and then bringing back your own motivation is what, is very much needed. So just look at all the support systems around, plus also build the support system for yourself, because who else can care better for, than yourself, right? So,
Very rightly said. Thanks, Shubha, for bringing
yeah.
that up regarding the spouse support and how people are different. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Um, when you talked about the family and what parents did for you, maybe just few words, Shubha. Now you're also a parent, lovely daughter. So how what we as parents should, because now they are also going through this competition. Maybe they will now, for my son will be in class 12 now, again same engineering college or not, medical, will I get it or not? So what is it, how should we handle them first, or their our expectations, or what they want to do, and second, what are the signs we should look for if we feel that they are also going into this zone now?
Yeah. So one thing which I took away from my parents, Sanjeev, they never, imposed anything on me. In fact, they were no, I don't remember days where they asked me to do some homework or to push me towards a class or to push me towards something. It was always a freedom given. Also, of course, with guided guidance from them to tell me what best I am at, and then also to give me a choice of what I wanted to do. So this I try to apply at my home as well. I have two kids, 12 and 4. And my elder daughter, although she is kind of quite an average student, I just tell her one thing: what is one thing which you are good at? What is one thing which makes you happy? Just be that. In fact, it is interesting that she came back several years back when she was in grade 3. She came back from school one day and then she asked me, Amma, I'm a little bit upset. I asked why. She said, you know that I always wanted to be an art teacher. Today, my friend in class told me that, art teacher will not make more money. An art teacher will not, have a great career. And, he said that you have to become an IT professional. Only then, you have a life in future. So I was just laughing at it by the kids' conversation at grade 3. You can imagine such small kids talking about this. And then I just told her, Apu, that's absolutely okay. As long as you're happy, as long as you're passionate about what you do, that's the right thing that you will have to pick. So, in fact, to me, the belief system is your profession or what you choose to do in life needs to be well aligned with your happiness, then there wouldn't be a single day why would you crib about work. So I always tell her, I guide her definitely. In fact, when there are times that the grades are low, I try to understand what is the reason, can we support, do you need some extra help outside and all of this. But I always tell her, what is one thing that you are good at, plus what is one thing that you are happy about.
Mhm.
Just pick that and keep moving towards that goal. That's as simple as that.
Okay. Thanks, Shubha. Just I realized that my son is also, one son is in 12 and one is 4. So almost very, very similar situation. So
Yeah.
uh, asking, yeah, this I also understand in my mind what you exactly told. But then for all our parents in this situation, I'm sure one question will come that at the end they will also have to earn for themselves, right? So this somehow always comes in the back of our head. And okay, this profession for sure they will get some paid, in this profession maybe not. So uh, how how do you play it out in your mind when you tell this? Because for me it is still a struggle, because I also want, it's for their good that they also be earning to do what they want to do.
Yeah, that's definitely, sometimes an equation that you have to play around with. One thing which I could imagine of what I also tell my daughter is, try to be the best in what you do. For example, it could be a simple profession, like I said, but then when you try to bring that, say, in the best possible way, of course, you will find a way to make it into an earning. Just to give an example, my mother had quit her job just because of my physical health issues. She was a teacher by profession. She quit her government job just because of me. And she's 63 today. Until today, I haven't seen any passion, that's missing from her. She, of course, she makes a little less money, but then she always ensures that she does things in the best possible way, so that then the other things are already always, coming back.
Okay.
Now, that's how I equate it. And it's also a kind of, say, the story of a relative theory, I would say. What is more money and what is less money, Sanjeev? you
Mhm.
know if
Mhm.
we say when it is earning is more for somebody who is, say, earning 10,000 today could be 12,000.
Mhm.
Earning for, say, somebody who's earning 1 lakh could be 2 lakh, right? It's a relative term.
Mhm.
So when we say more earning, it is just in the mind. This I strongly believe. So when the kid understands that, okay, I will have to make my earning in such a way, constant earning in such a way that I'm able to meet my goal in a step by step approach,
Mhm.
naturally the patience also creeps in. But
Mhm.
then if it's not really equated well, wherein you always look at a higher leap just in the beginning of your career itself,
Mhm.
then you don't get this patience and you're stressed naturally.
Mhm.
So it's, in fact, if you look at all of this, patience, stress, earnings, plus happiness, all
Mhm.
of this is just an equation that you will have to equate in a way that, do the best, wait patiently, your day is yet to come, and then you will go in steps. That is
Mhm.
what I would say. Could be
That,
slightly contradictory to the world that we see today,
yeah.
but this has always kept me going, and I'm sure that my kids will also get going with this.
Which also means, if it is an equation, which also means that it is a choice that we have. Either we make our, we don't be patient and get stressed, or we have the patience and be happy. So it's more also a choice. I think that's the good part of what you do.
Yeah,
Great. So Shubha, you talked about the professional thing where if we feel happy in what we are doing, so that's very good connect to coming to the professional life. So you are a mother of two, and I know at home I see it's how it's not an easy job bringing kids up, and you also are working. It also has its own demands. So how do you? I'm sure this question has been asked to you many times, and we have spoken about it many times. So how do you balance these two, and how do you reply to those who say that you are not taking care of your family by giving time to your profession?
yeah. Thanks for this question. This is something which always kills a mother from inside. Although sometimes these questions are not explicitly asked. You yourself ask this question. So if I actually have to give a briefing on my daily day, right? Just wake up early in the morning, maybe around 5:30 to 6, and then I finish all my house duties, I would say. because a lot of times I used to question myself, are working mothers not homemakers? Of course, we are as well homemakers. So we need to make our homes before getting into the job. So finish all the household chores, could be getting your kids ready to school, cooking, packing things for them, and so on and so forth. And then start my switch into my daily job. Yeah. And once I'm into my job, I just ensure what I've learned over years is this switch helps me when I'm kind of, reserving this time and my mind space specifically, for each set of my stakeholders. One set of stakeholders, my family in the morning, and
Mhm.
once I'm into work, my stakeholders at work, so that I'm able to give them the needed quality time fully. I'm there
Mhm.
fully. My 100% of mind space is for this stakeholder. This might sound a little contradictory to what we hear today in terms of flexibility and things
Right.
like that,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
this way worked for me, so I'm just continuing it that way. Not that it's the best way. Then, going into this work mode where I'm completely focused on my regular work, also taking care of this 80-20 rule. 80%, if I have to do some aspects of work which I'm expected in my job, but
Mhm.
20% of mixing it with passion, say some hobby projects within my company. Fortunately, my company always allows this. I'm able to pick 20% of my own hobby projects. It could be something on writing, it could be on delivering a talk, or it could also be mentoring and several other things. And then once my day ends, I'm again back to my regular household activities, settling time with kids, understanding how their day went. In fact, the quantity of time is never enough, to be very honest. The quantity of time is not enough, but then the
Mhm.
quality is still okay.
Mhm.
And when I say the quantity of time, maybe my daughter would have wanted to play with me. I did not have this time.
Mhm.
But or maybe she wanted to explain how her art went today at school.
Mhm.
Maybe
Mhm.
I did not have time. So I kind of merge my cooking time with this, wherein she's also sitting next to me and trying to explain, and
Mhm.
my toddler running around with all of his tantrums.
Mhm.
It is still fine. We engage together with the limited time. I must acknowledge this is the limited time that I have.
Mhm.
But rather than worrying about the limited time and killing myself with my mother's guilt of
Mhm.
not having the time to take out cycling with my kids, not having the time to play chess with my daughter,
Mhm.
instead of that, I try to just enjoy the moment that I have.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, once my kids are back to bed and then they are sleeping, of course, with a little bit leftover work at home. And finally, I end my day with a journal of, it could be writing on LinkedIn or at least writing in my personal diary. This is
Mhm.
something which makes me feel the whole day is full for me. And the day when I go to bed, closing my eyes with gratitude, saying
Mhm.
that, hey, from morning to evening, this was diverse work that I've done, taking care of all the different stakeholders that I had in the best possible way that I could, makes me feel happy. You know,
Mhm.
and a lot of times this question comes in, especially even with closer friends when we have this conversation. I've heard comments such as, "Okay, for me, kids are more important. That's why I stopped working."
Mhm.
you know
Mhm.
Sometimes I hear these comments very regularly. Sometimes, in fact, when I have to address about my promotion or about a reward and recognition that I get at work, I'm a little over conscious at home. The reason is the second question that will come either from my daughter or from my father is, oh, does this mean more work now? Yeah. So, you will have to keep that balance out. But at the end of the day, I just tell myself it is okay. It is okay to fail in certain aspects as a mom. I cannot be a perfect mother because this is the journey which I have consciously chosen for myself.
Mhm.
Nobody forced me to work, nobody forced me to quit. you know it is a conscious decision that I have made, so I am responsible for what I have decided for my life.
Mhm.
So I have to let go of this mother's guilt, telling that yes, I will absolutely not have this quantity time at all.
Mhm.
On the other side, I will also have to tell myself that it is okay. Let me prioritize what I do for my children to make myself feel good as a mother.
Mhm.
End of the day, I want to be a good mother. I want to be a good employee. So I just get it going.
Great, Shubha. I have heard this from you before. Thanks again for telling this. You had told me earlier about you have a room upstairs where you go for your office and then you come down. It is also a physical separation that you clearly create at home. Yeah, okay, that's great that it's working for you. For me, it's slightly different. So I also love coming to office. So morning I take the call from home and then I start, and because I stay near to office, then I reach. So it's somehow a bit mixed, but that's what is working for me. So what works? It's perfect.
Yes.
And the mother guilt we should come out of. That's what is your main message. I mean, people can say anything they want, but this is what you have chosen or somebody else has chosen, and then there is no reason to be guilty about it.
Yes. And maybe
Shubha,
one thing to add on mother's guilt, Sanjeev, if I may.
sure.
One thing we all, as mothers, have to really understand, or even as parents, I would say, mothers and fathers, is the perfect child nor the perfect parent exists. This will
Mhm,
never happen. you
mhm,
know this is my key mantra. In fact, the moment you start to raise a perfect child, the
mhm,
moment you start feeling that you have to raise a perfect child,
mhm,
and then the moment you also want to be a perfect parent, that is
mhm,
exactly the juncture where a lot of guilt and stress creeps in.
mhm,
We're all humans.
mhm,
It's easily said that to err is human and to forgive is divine. Yeah. So it is okay to make mistakes as a parent. It is okay to let your children fail.
mhm,
If you are really striving to make the best always for your child, you're just creating a future generation that would be literally afraid to see failures. Yeah.
absolutely.
So a lot of times we ourselves think, okay, as a child I did not get this, so I need to ensure that my child gets this now that I'm a parent.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
you know I have also thought about this a lot of times, but then at least I started understanding maybe this is not the right way. It is
Mhm,
okay for the child to
mhm,
fall and then understand what is life.
mhm,
Life is not a bed of roses.
mhm.
Likewise, it is okay to fail as a parent, to learn and try a different kind of an approach in parenting. That is completely okay. So, key mantra: perfect parent, perfect child. None of these them exists.
Thanks, Subha. On the lighter note, I used to play cricket a lot, and so it was my natural wish that both the kids will play cricket, and I was heartbroken when nobody touched the cricket bat. But okay, that's how it is. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, great.
exactly.
Shubha, one related question which I always had in mind, maybe I never asked you before also personally. So we are talking about working mothers and who have, you talked about the mother's guilt and the related subjects. Uh, do you think from your conversation, because you're talking to a lot of people, the homemakers who are taking care of the home only and who do not work or who professionally who are not well placed, do they also have a guilt that my contemporaries are earning and have a financial security, but what am I doing only at home, taking care of kids and husband only? Do they also have some thoughts like this?
Definitely, definitely. I have literally witnessed this in my mother a lot of times, especially
Mhm.
when she had to give up her career, for me. Yeah. And in India, you know how a government job is, right? Usually a government job is a dream job, especially in the generation where our parents came from. So
Correct.
she really had to give up on her government job just because of my physical illness. And I also know several of my friends,
Mhm.
who never went for a job,
Mhm.
just because of family reasons.
Mhm.
And when I talked to them on one, I could see the pain in their hearts. Yeah. And
Mhm.
to all such women, what I would say is support is not just the financial support that you will always have to look at. It's okay that you are not able to financially support, but then how do you plan your family? How do you also plan the budget for your family to do a savings? That itself is a kind of a financial support. you know and
Mhm.
on the other side, if you look at, I've myself envied, quite some stay-at-home moms. For instance, my sister, she was
Mhm.
working in an IT segment for 7 years, and
Mhm.
after her children, she chose to give up her career, and
Mhm.
it was okay. She was quite happy in what she's doing, and
Mhm.
I a lot of times I envy on her because my daughter even looks up to her than me a lot of times.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
my own feeling of, okay, is your big mother more important than me,
Mhm.
is the question that I used to ask myself.
Mhm.
But then, you know that is the joy that she's received for the kind of quantity time that she could spend. On the other side, it is also the patience that I've seen, in a lot of stay-at-home moms. You know, in fact, when I have to really look at myself and as well as my sister in this case, she's a lot more patient with kids, whereas I just lose my temper. And on the other side, they bring in a lot of support to the family in terms of the mental support that they give to the children, to the husband, to the old aged people at home. Plus they also know the outside world because they are able to engage with a lot of people in the circle, and then they bring back this experience. My grandmother used to talk about her mother who was basically having 12 children, and she was not a working mother, but the kind of wisdom that she carried because of the contacts that she made outside, because of the network in the family, the way that she handled ups and downs of the family, this is just amazing. So this is also the aspect that you're bringing in. So never feel guilty. In fact, each family system and each individual demands a kind of an ecosystem, what they need and what they know best. For instance, just standing from outside, we might hear comments saying that, or we might even pass comments at the other family saying that, oh, the girl is educated, why did she waste her education? She must have gone to work to financially support. But she is the only best person to assess the family needs at this point in time. She's the only best person to know what her family needs and what is her contribution to the family. Yeah. So we should be mindful of the fact that we are all diverse and we are all unique. So just appreciate that individuality, what they bring to the table as well. You know, so just let go of your guilt of not being able to support financially. There are other wonders that you're doing. So just go on with a smile.
Yes. Thanks, Shua, for the great message. Also, this is for those stay-home mothers, as you told, and also those who are taking a break in your career to take care of their families. I think this is a wonderful message, Shua. Shubha, now coming to the probably the last segment of our talk, it into our work areas where probably we are staying 8 hours, 10 hours. Now staying is a different word. We are not staying in office, but of course we are working, and we'll come back hopefully very soon. So I picked up this line when you told that when your professional life is aligned to what makes you happy, then that's the best combination. Um, if I may say that, suppose we have so many people in office working, probably all of them may not be, coding may not be their happiest moment in life, probably. Huh? Let me put it this
Yeah.
way. For you, fortunately, you have a purpose in life, you have a passion to support on the mental health. So you work on that and you also work professionally, but you have a very clear focus in your life, what you want to do. Those who are working with us, say, and just thinking of the colleagues around, um, maybe there are a few who really love coding. I mean, they are the ones who, I
Hmm.
mean, if you leave it without food and water, they will be doing it, but maybe not all of them. Okay. And I picked up another line that you told. One of the symptoms, people who are constantly cribbing, maybe this is one symptom where we should look at. So maybe I will divide my question into two. So first is how to also be happy in the work that we're doing now. Okay, because always
Hmm.
it will not be 100% match that this is exactly what makes me happy. And then the second one is in the professional area, how to look for those symptoms where we know that the guys are slowly probably getting into that zone, and we have to bring it to the notice of the supervisor.
Yeah, yeah. That's lovely that you asked this question, because not everybody equally cares each other individual as humans at workplace, usually in the context of corporate. And when you have this thought or this question, Sanjeev, I'm very happy that you're the right leader for the team also looking at their mental health, wellness and things like this. Thanks for this. So coming to the first thing of what interests you, or probably you're not given the opportunity to work on what you like. Sometimes, yeah, you would not get this. And I would like to quote an example when I had to do a switch, say several years back, to another job. I had a complete switch of a different domain. In fact, I landed into a kind of an infrastructure department, which was never my cup of tea. I never had any work experience or knowledge about this part itself. But however, what I started looking at in the beginning, I was scribbling a lot. I should admit that Every other day I would go back to home and I would say, is this the right place for me? Am I doing what I want? I wouldn't like to go into meetings. I wouldn't like to go into discussions. It was like a lot killing. Then I started doing, I always, look at this 80-20 rule. That's when I had a discussion once, with my mother. My mother always says that in life, everything will not happen the way you expect. It is okay. You will have to do a little bit of adjustment, but then go for it. That's what she told me. And I was just thinking, that's when this 80-20 rule popped up. I was just thinking 80% of your day, if it's monotonous work, what you really hate to do, or what you never wanted to do, but then just spending 20% of your time on doing something very interesting transforms this 80% area into an interesting area. This looks a philosophy, but you really, if you keep trying this again and again, the first 3-4 months, this was what was going. I was cribbing, I was worrying, I was even thinking of should I switch my job once again. I was even looking for something else and all of this. And then when I started applying this 20% of what I wanted to do, right, in terms of different work area, doing some hobby projects. Of course, what I told myself was, okay, I'm not expecting anything in return for this 20% because it's my interest, and it's my stretch that I'm doing a little bit. But then I'm not expecting any immediate outcome of this. I'm constantly doing it just to motivate myself. And slowly I saw the magic happening. I started liking the 80% of the boredom work that I was actually doing. I started getting into the topics a little bit more in deep. Yeah. So what I would like to tell everybody around here is, we would not have the perfect job. I remember in a coffee conversation, there was a colleague who came and asked me, which technology should I learn now? Is it data? Is it AI? Is it ML? Because these are catching up. And then I said, yeah. And then I just asked, do you like this? If yes, yes, please go on. If not, look at what is your interesting area for at least the 20%, because you have an 80% job which you're already not interested in. But then at least pick up something on 20% which is interesting. Because what we constantly do is the mistake of getting an acknowledgement or a value to what we are doing. But if this value comes from you, then you would not run around this constant chase. A lot of times, what we start doing in the corporates is we start chasing where you would get the limelight, where you would get a better name, where you would start getting a promotion or a recognition. But why don't you just, acknowledge yourself? That's okay. If you're doing a good job. So 20% reserve for not what the market needs, but what you need. Then this 20% will convert your 80% into a happy zone. One of my neighbors was just asking me the other day, she's a young mother, how do you motivate yourself to go to work every day or to start working every day? This was an open terrace conversation, terrace to terrace we were talking, because she also knows that I was working from the room upstairs. And then I said, touch wood, there's not been a day where when I wake up, I feel, why do I have to work? She was like, her eyes were just coming out. She was like, is it true? Then I said, that was exactly the game changing moment when I understood that the happiness is not because of, say, somebody giving me an appreciation or somebody acknowledging my work or the value of the topic that I'm working. It is just that if I'm able to do this 20%, which gets me going for the remaining 80%. So we all must acknowledge 80%. It is okay. It will be something what we did not choose, but 20% we can still choose. You know, that's something which I would like to say.
Thanks, Shubha.
Now, come.
So maybe just I can interject. So yes, this hobby project thing, I also always ask my colleagues to do. I want to do, but maybe if you're okay, I will borrow this 80-20. I didn't have this in mind, but generally doing something on the side. But this looks a bit more concrete, so I will maybe borrow from you and also take to my team. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sanjeev. And to come back to the other question, what you just asked, how do you really look for the signs of people getting stressed, talking about? It's actually a two-way conversation that has to start. In fact, there's a lot of buzz on psychological safety today, but this was something which I always thought, not with this term. How can you really give the comfort to your teams to be open with you? Yeah. Even we have done this when we were, say, not in leadership roles. Maybe we must have ended in a small coffee conversation with our colleagues cribbing about it. A lot of times we women get into the washrooms and in that common area we speak about what is not really good about. you know but there was one day when I thought about, instead of talking about this over coffee or in restrooms, Can I really go into my boss's cabin and just say that, you know, hey, I'm not really feeling okay? And this had to be a two-way, because my boss also has to give me this kind of an opportunity and should also be open enough to acknowledge rather than getting defensive. So I would say a big part of it comes from the leadership. The leadership should, create such an environment where they should acknowledge the fact that people should voice out if they're not okay. But this is a bigger change. This is really a bigger change. And on the other side, smaller signs that you could see, maybe if a person, you see the person is a high potential person, but slowly maybe his or her contribution is getting down. This is one sign to watch for. The other sign, we always, get into a kind of a bell curve, right? And then we say, okay, certain people, maybe they're just not motivated enough. But have we even tried to ask why are they not motivated enough? It could be that for years they have been this way. That's still okay. In that case, as a leader, can we take a challenge to at least, bring this persons who are less motivated into a slightly better curve? Have we gone into that conversation? Have we tried to understand, hey, is it something that your job is completely boring, that you're not motivated enough? Do you want my support to give you that 20% of your passion, what you want to do it? Can we even break that ice? This is needed. And the other signs also, there could be a complete different struggle. The person is struggling with a lot of things on the personal side. And that's the reason you don't see much productivity, right? It's time to ask for an informal conversation, or just pat on the back and also talk about your own personal challenges. Sometimes the first time when you talk about your personal challenges, you're actually giving them the space to be open with you. Today I get contacted by a lot of colleagues, even from the other departments, or people who are not even reporting to me. The reason is because I talk about my personal challenge, which eases them out to speak back about their personal challenge. And then we try to understand, it's a mutual learning experience, to see how we can help. So a leader's job is really big here. They need to watch for these signs. And usually there's always a conversation whether people managers are needed in the industry, people managers are no longer needed, and things like this. But I would say that people developers are needed. you know as leaders, our job, if we do not have time for our own people, we fail as leaders. So we would really have to watch for these subtle signs. It could be, say, their motivation at work, their contribution to work. Have this constant conversation to ask if things are okay. Do they need any kind of a support, or what is that, you know, that stops them from getting ahead? And finally, if there is somebody who just says, hey, this is perfectly okay, I'm just happy doing only this part, this is because this also gives me some kind of balance, that is still okay. But you would understand that the person is not struggling enough. So yeah, it's a big change to bring in this kind of an open discussion. Not everybody would be comfortable with it, but the more and more you start, building this culture, and you tell your own stories and you tell them how you will have to, deal with this at workplace, then it gets a lot more easier. And what is also important is to bring your teams to get into this conversation as well. A lot of times when we do it constantly, the maybe the distance between the leader and the employee is reduced, they come closer. But we should also encourage teams to have this conversation with each other. For instance, when they come back with a conflict, just as a typical example, somebody comes back to you saying that, hey, the person is not contributing to the work as much, he pushes things to me, and then the other person has his own view. After we have both the one-on-ones, can we also try to bring in each other's perspective to each other? You will not be really liked for this, for doing it, because at once it would sound that you are supporting of the other person, if you know what I mean, in separate conversations. But actually slowly, it kind of makes them aware of the fact that, yeah, you will have to, also look at a peer-to-peer connection and openness.
Yes, thanks Shubha for that. And so as you told, the leaders have a great role to play to bring this conversation. But what I liked even more there was that if I go to my colleague and say, "What's your problem?" Of course, that's not the way they will open up. So I have to open
Yes.
myself up, which maybe my just feeling that many leaders are not ready to do, because then they have to show their within quotes the weaker side, when they have to be vulnerable, which
Exactly.
they don't want to be in front of their
Yes.
team members, and then it doesn't work. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Very simple thing. One more thing to add here, Sanjeev. Very simple thing. So leaders, are also humans.
Hmm.
This is the general fundamental thing that we will have to also, show it. It is absolutely okay to show our weaknesses, to show our vulnerabilities to our teams, to also talk about that. In
Hmm.
fact, what I tried in my team, in a very small way, is talking about failures.
Mhm.
The more you talk about failures, it increases, you know, the comfort of taking risks.
Uh-huh.
People start feeling, okay, it is okay. I've seen my leader fail. I've
Hmm.
seen my leader talking about it.
Hmm.
Then, of course, there would not be a penalty.
Hmm.
Let me also try to do something.
Hmm.
So this is something which we will have to bring.
Yeah.
This actually adds to a lot of psychological safety, if you ask
Great
me.
message, Shiva. Okay. Also, Subha, if it is okay with you, can you also talk a bit about what actually happened when you decided to take that extreme step? What was going through your mind? What happened after that? And now, when you go to the universities or you are talking in the symposiums, what exactly do you tell them against taking this extreme step, against committing suicide? Maybe a very, very touchy topic, but will be really, really be indebted if you can walk us through that.
Sanjeev, if I have to really recollect some memories, some dark memories of my life, say 20 years back, like I said, I was going through a physical illness, a neurological disorder, where I was undergoing a treatment which had to be taken at least for 5 years or more. You know, of course, as always, a treatment comes with its own, side effects as well. You know, I was kind of losing my hair. I was growing a lot of facial hair. I was also getting obese. I just hated myself as a teenager. And there was a phase where, I was slowly losing my interest in life. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I had a blackout phase in a physics lab in college. And I just woke up at the hospital and I felt very embarrassed, really, really embarrassed. Although there are quite some people who were supportive of what I was going through, my own friends. On the other side, there were also people who were mocking because they do not know what's happening, right? So that particular day, I was really, really embarrassed, and I thought that okay, I will not build a career in future. I will not be able to make what I want. My brother was a doctor already, and my sister was an engineering pass out student from a leading university, Anna University, and I was the only one. I felt very low about this. I thought, okay, I will not be able to do anything in life, and I needed somebody to be all with me all the time, because this blackout phase, you do not know when it would happen. So I was very adamant to go by college bus. My father would send me in the college bus, and behind he would travel for almost 7 to 10 kilometers in his bike to just ensure that I'm safe. I cannot cross a road alone as per the advice of the doctor because there could be a blackout phase. So my father always accompanied me. And also, I will not be able to drive a two-wheeler, which I really loved.
Mhm.
So there were simple things that I could not do by myself. And I will have to sleep at quite early at 9 o'clock around just to ensure that I get enough rest for my brain
Okay.
due to the
Mhm.
treatment and things like
Mhm.
that. So I was, in fact, not, I felt that there's nothing in life that I'm going to achieve with this. How would you go to work? Because,
Mhm.
after all this, how would you really enjoy your life? How would you really make a family? I had a lot of questions. I still remember it was a Saturday afternoon. I just hid, 5 packs of pills that I was getting treated with. And, I just silently walked into the washroom, and it was just the washroom water. Just imagine the kind of state that I was in. I just gobbled everything. And I was really afraid. I just came back. I lied on the bed. I closed my eyes and I just closed my eyes and I just sorry, Amma and Appa. Because I know I'm going to put them into a kind of a tremendous pain for the rest of their life. And my sister was talking to me. She was, we were rivals and then we were also friends. It was like a dual relationship. I was just smiling at her, but I couldn't talk to her much. I said, I'm feeling sleepy. That's it. The day when I woke up, it was Wednesday. From Saturday to Wednesday, I absolutely had no clue what I was going through. And when I woke up, there were a lot of tubes all over, my hand, my legs, my urinary path, everything, I was in the hospital, and I could hear my mom crying out, you know. I could hear her calling out, Shuba, Subha. And I wanted to tell her, Amma, I'm alive. I don't want to see you crying, you know. But I still remember there were no words that were coming out of me. There were no words, not because that I was emotional. It was simply that physically I was not able to communicate. Physically, I was not able to open my eyes. I was trying to open my eyes. The entire building was reeling. I couldn't do anything. Then I just touched my mom. I just showed my hands. And then she knew I was alive. And I was very close to my father, more than my mother. Till date, I'm very, very close to my father. My father had nothing to say. He just came and touched my hands. And that was it. After 3, 4 days, I was discharged back home. I really had a lovely siblings. I would say I'm really blessed to have such siblings. None of them spoke to me about this. I myself felt ashamed of it because I would have left my entire family in pain for the rest of their lives. My sister did not talk about this. My brother did not talk about this. They just diverted it. They just spoke about all the other nice things. And that was the first time I started feeling, why did I really do this when I have such a lovely family? You know, why did I really do this? And I do not know the reason till now what made me to do this. But that was the day when I started going back into, say, psychiatric treatments as well, with the support of my parents. My mother just told me one thing after several months of all this happening. She just said that if there is one wish that we want, we just want to see you alive until we are alive. Until day, this, kind of pops in my head. And that was the day I thought, even if my physical illness or my mental illness takes me to a situation that I would face death the very next day, it would not be me taking my own life. And this is one reason why I strongly support, suicide awareness campaigns today, why I go to universities and talk about it. Taking your own life, never do this. It is okay, ask for help.
So, Subha, if the viewers who are listening, they want to connect with you, or they want to go through what you have done and your blogs and others, which are these places where they can follow you and read through what you have already talked about?
Yeah, thanks a lot. In fact, I'm quite active on LinkedIn.
Mhm,
So they could definitely connect on LinkedIn. There are a lot of people who also connect on personal conversations on LinkedIn,
mhm.
because if they're not comfortable to also, add it to a public forum, that's
Participate.
still fine. You
Mhm.
can send me a kind of an email or a message so that, I will definitely get back. And usually on Saturdays, mornings between 7 to 10, I'm completely blocking myself for this kind of one-on-one
Wow.
conversations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And a lot of times I have done it with women, but what I see recently is there's a lot of men also who talk about, mental health and their sufferings. So
Okay.
most welcome to do that. And it's a kind of a diverse topics that I write about, on LinkedIn, as you know, sometimes on mental health, sometimes of dealing between work and life, and I mean, work and home, and sometimes also say other generic topics. And otherwise, I also have a separate WordPress account where I'm usually blogging a little bit of my own experiences.
Okay.
So happy to give that. Yeah. But
Okay.
happy
Subha,
also to connect further.
sure. So, Shubha, hope it is okay if as a subtitle, I add your contacts on the LinkedIn and your WordPress and your mail IDs for all others to have.
Definitely, definitely. Most
Okay.
welcome to do that.
Okay, great, Shubha.
Yeah.
It was really lovely talking to you, Shubha. It is, I know you personally, but I came to know much more today, and of course, my viewers. Before we end, some last words from you, now especially directed towards those in the profession, how to enjoy their work and how to not get too stressed and get into the zone.
I like the term that you always use, make a workplace, more like a college. You keep telling this, right?
Yep.
So just bring back the energy that you always had. Just uh, just be yourself. This is key. And choose what you want to do consciously, and never regret for what you choose. It's okay if it fails, or if it goes in the right way, but never regret. So just go on, keep the spirits on. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you, Shubha. Have a nice day and all the very best for the mission that you have taken.
Thank you very much, Sanjeev. Nice talking to you. Bye bye.
So this was the second episode of Genji Talk Show. Next time, we will come up with another story which will inspire you, inspire us to follow our guts. Till then, take care.